done. Maybe also what they need, other steps that they need to reach that goal as well. Also, it's a great place to take notes and work out problems. This can become a reference for your students as they work through whatever subject it is that you're using this math notebook. Whenever we train for ALEKS, it gives them a place as they're working through ALEKS and Redbird to go back as they're working through the program. All right, the next one, Alan, do you have anything you wanted to add there?
Not yet. I'll be adding a few things, going back to the notebook, I think a little bit later.
Okay, good. All right. Another one is using math manipulatives around your house. This is a great way to make math more fun and to be able for them to work with this math. You can use all different things. You guys put in chat if you have any ideas for manipulatives as well, but you can use snacks, which is always good. Crackers, candy, pieces of fruit, dice, buttons, beans, dominoes, toys, dried pasta, and cards. Manipulatives provide a tangible and visible tool for learning abstract concepts. They help students create a conceptual understanding by representing ideas in different ways. So the manipulatives give children a way to explore mathematical concepts and encourage learning. So this gets them excited about math. It also gives them confidence whenever they're able to work with the math and have an understanding. Another one is research provides that research shows that achievement improves when manipulatives are used. So let them have those manipulatives. That might be part of the supplies that we were talking about earlier that you have in their learning environment. Have some manipulatives there. Also, just some ideas for manipulatives to use for fractions. You can use different items to show parts of a set. Also, you can cut paper strips in equal lengths and you can fold them into thirds, quarters, and so on to visually see the differences. You can use it for addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. I mean, the ideas go on and on that you can use these manipulatives. Do you guys have any ideas you'd like to share for manipulatives that you use and that you could tell parents to use?
Yeah, and Corey, while we have some of our visitors inputting some of their recommendations, what I kind of wanted to mention is that the students we don't just have to have the students in front of their computer and only in front of their computer. A lot of times when we do classroom visits and we do observations for students in the classrooms that are using some of our math programs, because Corey and I mainly focus on math, if you can't tell. But when we go do classroom observations, one of the biggest recommendations that we give teachers is that the students, we just don't have to have them in front of their computer. I mean, they can be in front of their computer, but with their notebook, as Corey mentioned previously, and with manipulatives and with, other things, because that'll enhance their learning experience. And it's the same recommendations that we give with parents when, the students are working at home. We think a lot of times, if they're just on their laptop or their computer, they should be fine. But a lot of times, the students may be struggling. They're trying to do the math in their head. And it's okay if they have other things with them so that it'll improve and help them as they're trying to figure out conceptually, how to work the, certain problems. So this is definitely a recommendation that we give parents, but also one huge one that we also give teachers while we do classroom observations. I usually tell teachers, look, if your computer lab is a little messy, it's actually okay. Because that means, the students are writing things down, they have things that they're counting, they have things that, they're working with, they can, they have so many other options that they can be using. And it just doesn't have to be a student and a computer. So I appreciate that. And I see some comments coming up now in the chat as well.
Yes, we have one that it says, let's see, I have students go find things in their house that can be associated with the subject and art we are working with. That's great. Also, I haven't, oh, to help students understand the concept of surface area, I used to use Cheez-Its, and they're almost a perfect square inch. So that's a great idea too. We use manipulatives in class, at home, and online tools. All right, that's great. Thank you for the feedback there. All right, so let's go to the next one. And this is using a reward system with your child for achieving homework goals. And when I think of this, I think of those students that like my own children. I had one that, you know, making an A was enough. They didn't need those rewards. But I have one that's like, oh, I don't really care. I just want to be finished. And so just reaching those students that with some kind of reward system. And this can be different with each student. And if you go to the next slide, Alan, it can also be as elaborate or as simple as you want. But rewards give them something to look forward to when they finish their homework. These can be simple things like when we're finished with homework, we'll play a board game with your family, spending time with friends, a favorite television show, playing video games. So those can be just simple things that we talk about, like, okay, whenever we have our homework time afterwards, you can go and have some fun. Alan even talked about his niece. Her favorite thing was just to be able to hold the controller whenever they finish their homework. You know, just little things that work for your students. Another one is a little bit more elaborate, is a point system. So this could be over a longer term that their students are, you know, gaining points every day by their homework behavior, and then they're able to trade those in for some type of reward. So do you guys have anything that you guys would share, like what works for you, even in your classroom? I mean, you know, we all have like some kind of reward system that happens in our classrooms as well. Alan, can we go to the next slide? Let me see here, I'm going to check this chat. Rory's worked with my niece and nephew, age 12. I use Artys as a reward. I'm not sure what Artys is. I'll have to look that up.
Artys are actually like paper money that I use to give the kids. So they, every time they answer a question, they get an Arty. It's an art money thing. And then at the end of the quarter, they turn them in for extra points for the class.
I love that. What a good idea. Okay, so our fifth one is creating a schedule and remembering to take time for a break. So if you have a long period of time that your students are working, or if they're coming in from school, let them take a little break before or during those long periods. Your schedule, like everything that we've talked about, these are going to vary with each student. Some people need more time, while others can finish that homework quickly. Also by grade. Alan, if you'll switch that, the slide. Some things to remember. Creating a predictable homework routine can take some of that struggle out of, they know where they're supposed to go. They know how long we're going to spend on homework. And whenever you're creating this homework routine, talk to your children, get them involved in making the routine. This makes them feel like their voices are heard, and they're going to get more buy-in from your students. Another thing is leave time for that break that we talked about. If you have long periods of time, include a break in there. Or if they are, if they come home from school, include a little break, even a small one in there. Also, how much time does your student need for homework? And this could vary for each student depending on grades and your student. Another thing, an idea that I've heard works is during homework time, make it just a family quiet time. Turn off the TV, especially for those students that get easily distracted or just need the quiet. Then your student can also work on something that doesn't require the TV, even if they finish. Another thing is, where will they do homework? And this goes back to that learning environment that we talked about. Have them going to a specific place to do their homework. And what can they do after they get finished with their homework? And that goes back to that reward system as well. And another thing, and the most important, be consistent, because it might take a few weeks for them to get in the habit of this homework schedule. but when they do, it's going to really be beneficial and take some of that homework struggle out. So Alan, do you have anything you want to add on that one? Alan has, you don't have, your child hasn't got to the age yet of doing homework. It's coming though.
Yeah, no, she's still too little, so she's still a toddler.
All right. Well, Alan, I think that yours are the next one.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll go
Take
ahead
it
and
from here.
I'll continue from where Corey left off. So this is something that, again, I always talk to teachers as well, and this is something that's, it's more of an art than a science, but it's something that I've had to have conversation with parents about us as well. And this recommendation is really to allow students to experience the productive struggle. As parents, we sometimes want to jump in, when we see our students struggling or getting frustrated. And a lot of times, like I said, it's more of an art than a science to figure out when do we step in and when do we let them struggle a little bit and figure it out. And this, as I mentioned, I have a 2-year-old. Well, she's about to be 3 soon. I mean, I'm already feel like I'm impacted by that now, and I'm sure I'll continue. That will just not stop. But as we speak with parents and talk to them about, how they do this, there's a couple of pretty simple ideas. One of them is when they're working on a digital program, whether it's math or language arts or reading, most of the digital programs have an assessment or a diagnostic that students take in the beginning. So one of the things that, especially after the pandemic hit, that we had to tell parents is not to help students with the assessment. I kid you not, I had so many second grade geniuses who scored extremely well in their assessment, come to find out they got a little bit of help from either the parents or a big brother or big sister or something. So we want to let the parents know, during the assessment or diagnostic of our programs, make sure that you are not helping them, because the system is trying to gather the data and figure out, the student's performance. Another thing is most programs allow the students to work independently. The pedagogy to most programs is that there's some type of instruction and then some type of a journey for students to work on the problems on their own. Obviously, if it's more of a practice program, right, they're just sort of working with math facts or just getting some practice, they may not have that structure. But most programs that have an artificial intelligence that's working, or it's truly personalized learning, that's really how they work. They are working to figure out, how the students are performing and if they know certain topics or material. So I usually tell, parents, you're gonna have to know the program a little bit better, because there are some instances in which the program is asking the student to work independently. And at that point, the program is also going to be collecting data. As Corey mentioned, we work with 2 main programs in math called Redbird and ALEKS, and they do basically that. They allow the student to work independently, and then it's capturing the data to see if the student has actually mastered the content or not. Now, where can parents, actually step in? It's during the instruction piece. So as I mentioned, many programs, they do provide students with instruction. There's some tutorials that they can watch, or in some cases, there's something that they can read to work through learning a certain topic or concept. And in those cases, definitely that's when the parent can step in and assist if possible. And then I would also say to do provide some support if the child does become a little too frustrated. The student's not getting it, they're trying to quit, they're tapping a little too hard on the keyboard as they're working through their personalized learning program. And that's maybe when the parent may step in a little bit and provide some support if the student is just, it's getting way too frustrated to the point where, we know they're just not going to want to do any more work. So that's why I call it more of an art than a science, because it's really tough for us as parents to figure out, okay, there's that productive struggle, those aha moments that we know are so important, so knowing when we step in and when we kind of just leave it alone can be quite a difficult task for parents as well. And again, we're trying to engage the group as much as possible. But if anyone has any additional suggestions to knowing or are allowing for that productive stumble for your children or for your students, and we have quite a few teachers in here, I would love to hear your 2 cents in the chat as well, or you should also have the ability to unmute yourself if you want to jump in as well. If not, then I'll just go on to my next recommendation. All right, well, I think we're ready to move on. So a couple of things. This is something that we actually recommend teachers, which obviously we also recommend many of our parents. We like the students to become independent in their learning. Now, there's a difference between having a student being independent and taking ownership of their learning, and then just leaving the student alone or the child alone. Becoming independent means that the student is able to use the built-in resources or tools that the programs have. So what I've experienced, doing this for so long, when we do classroom observations, is that a lot of the students, if they're not using a notebook or whatever, they're trying to maybe do the math in their head, and they're okay just getting a question wrong, right? As long as they can just keep moving on. And most of the programs, in fact, most of the programs that I've worked with and that I've seen other teachers use, they have built-in tools and resources, just a help button of some sort. There maybe are some videos that they can watch. There's maybe a little avatar or something that you can click on, and it provides you with an additional resource. So that's what I mean by having students become independent in using the digital programs, but also taking ownership, right? If you need help, they get help and they know where to get help. Another way to have students become a lot more independent is in a way for them to track their own progress. Most of our children and most of our students are so used to video games, right? And it's not so much because the video games are more appealing and more engaging. That's part of why they like video games so much, but also they can see how they're doing, right? They can see their score. They can see how they're improving. They can see how they went to the next level and now they're in level 20. So all of those things that video games have, many of the programs have as well. There's usually a way that students can track their progress, right? How many units did they complete, how many lessons or topics or concepts or whatever they may be. There's always a way for the students to be able to track their progress. So what I usually let teachers know is to help their students become very fluent in the reporting and how they're able to track their own progress. Because the students will become a lot more accountable if they know where to go and see how they're doing within the program. So we always understand that parents may not have access to some of the reporting, but we can, as parents, always talk to our students to track their progress and see how they're doing, right? How many lessons they've been doing for the week or for the day. There's always trackers that they can use both online or also in their notebook as well. And that kind of leads into having the students become very fluent in the reporting structure. So this is something I'm glad we have quite a few teachers here, because this is something that I'm always having conversation with teachers about. I ask teachers to spend maybe one day with the students going over reporting and only reporting. So yes, we want the students to work for certain time in the program and do some work and get maybe 2 hours a week in the program. But I would take one day as a teacher to sit with all of my students and talk to them about where they can find the reports, how they can track their progress, what the reports are telling them, where they're struggling, where they're doing well, and overall how they're performing. So as a teacher, yes, we want to have our students become extremely fluent with their reports. And then finally, most of the questions, in speaking with parents that I've learned that students have may not necessarily be about the content. Yes, the content, there are some questions there, but sometimes it's about troubleshooting, right? I hit this and it didn't work. I hit enter and it didn't do anything. I clicked here and it didn't do what it was supposed to do, or I tried to log out, or so there's so much little things. And I think I saw someone say that in the chat that they work in the computer lab, and we probably see that all the time, right? We always assume that students are extremely tech savvy, and many of them are, but a lot of them, they're just working with so many different programs that they may think that if you swipe this, it'll work, and it is that what it's meant to do. So I think even helping the students troubleshoot on their own will also help them become a lot more independent. And this is usually something that we also recommend, parents, learning the program a little bit more. So as you notice that the student is having an issue with, I don't know, clicking on a box, we can help them understand, look, if you have to click on the box, this is how you do it. And then you enter, digits. And that's the way that you can continue to work with the program. So that'll also help the students become a lot more independent and take full ownership as well. But I love what Melissa said in the chat. They are tech savvy when they want to be. That is true. All of a sudden, you're asking them to do an assessment on the computer, and they just all of a sudden forgot how to turn it on, right, Melissa? So I get you, especially our older students. I always make a joke with the teachers that, especially our high school, and a lot of our middle students too. A lot of our older students will literally spend most of their time trying to figure out how to hack the program or the system so that they don't have to do the work instead of actually doing the work. So yeah, they definitely know how to do it. They know how to use the program, but they're just trying to figure out, how do I get out of this? And I've seen many students trying to hack how do I get the right responses? I don't have to do it anymore, instead of actually just learning the material. So I appreciate the comment, Melissa. Here's a recommendation that Corey and I were talking about as we were preparing for this presentation. One of the things that we were discussing, and when we have conversation with parents, there are some programs out there that that allow students to receive additional resources and all these built-in tools as well. But a lot of times we need a little bit more. We need something beyond the computer and even beyond what maybe a parent can do. So there are programs that, for example, tutoring programs that parents can sign up for that are maybe inexpensive. But as I was kind of reflecting on this, my mom, when I was young, worked 2 jobs, and we probably couldn't afford a tutor when I was young. So she, there was really no way that I could have actually gotten like a personal tutor of any sort. So instead of letting parents know, like if you feel that your child needs a little bit more help to get a tutor, we wanted to sort of rephrase it a little bit differently, and to maybe have someone else help with the student's work. What we mean by that is there's usually someone in the family, maybe someone, a close relative, or maybe even a friend that can help a little bit better than the parent. So for example, many of you who are in this room who are teachers, but also parents, know that having your mom or your dad teacher helping you is very different than maybe having an uncle helping you with your work, right? The child acts a little bit differently. They ask different questions. It's a very different interaction. And the reason why I mentioned this is because recently, this actually happened about a week and a half ago. My wife has a little sister. She's in 2nd grade. And obviously the only person to help her with homework and with any of the digital programs is her mom. And she's struggling with subtraction. And the mom said, basically, I tried everything and she's just not getting it. And I'm telling her to do this right, and she knows how to do it, and she's not doing it right. So I told my mother, like, you know what, let me sit with her. So she brought her one day, and we really only worked for an hour. And it was a very different dynamic, right? Even the behavior change, but just me sitting with her and helping her with subtraction. Again, I brought the manipulatives, as Corey mentioned. We were working with a notebook as well. So, I was also implementing these things that they weren't doing at home. It just changed the dynamic. It's like basically what the mom was trying to do in a full week, I was able to do in 1 hour, helping the child just with subtraction. So one of the things that we usually recommend to parents is to, have someone else step in as well. It could be, a big brother. It could be an uncle. It could be a cousin. It could be someone, maybe even a neighbor that maybe is a tutor or something, and ask them to sit with your child for a while, because we know that the dynamic and the interaction is definitely going to change. And I see, Melissa, I just saw your message, so I'm glad you're sharing your experience too.
And I can totally relate with Melissa too, because she said her daughter had the hardest time letting her help, and it is just a different dynamic. And so when you have someone come in, it takes that off of have you, and it, it gives them another way to look at math or any other subject as well. So I really like this one.
Yeah, and not only that, it also gives the parents a break, right? Especially
Have to.
for teacher parents, you're not only are you teaching in in the classroom in the morning, but in the afternoon, now you're also a teacher with your children as they're doing homework. So kind of even giving that little break, like, okay, it's not always me. It's a huge plus. So yeah, Melissa, thank you for sharing that. And if anybody else has any additional comments that you would like to include in the chat, we would love to hear your comments as well. All right, I want to come back to talking about student progress. Now, we talked about students monitoring their own progress and becoming fluent in the reporting, but we also like to share with parents about how they can monitor their children's progress. Now, most programs have reports that parents can view. Even if they don't have a specific parent report, the children should have something that they can view. So I would always advise parents, whenever you get a chance, just ask the students, what, can we take a look at what you've been doing so far? Can we take a look at some of the reports? Right? So we can always check the reports and see what the students are actually doing. We can also check the usage. And what I also like to remind, not just parents, but even teachers, is to not always rely on time spent in a program. It becomes very easy for us to just say, I'm going to just have the student work on this particular math program or reading program for 20 minutes a day or for 10 minutes a day. And the problem is, yeah, the students are going to time it, but that 10 minutes can just be spent clicking around, right? At home, they have access to the browser, so they can literally start going on YouTube and doing something else. So unless the parent is like literally sitting next to the child, monitoring that they're actually working on that for 10 minutes, it could be, the students can definitely try to hack the system and figure out, how do I get out of this? So even just checking the usage, right? Hey, I saw you finished your 20 minutes, to working on the program. Can we go ahead and check the report to see, what you did, right? And usually the reports, in fact, almost every report that I've seen, not just with our programs, with other programs, there is a way to track usage. So we can always see that. But I always let teachers know, a lot of times it's a lot better to assign the students to complete content other than complete usage. Because, and that's usually sometimes works for some students, right? If I'm telling the students, you got to work on, the program, the math program, for example, our program is called ALEKS. And you have to work on ALEKS and complete 10 topics for the week. That we usually see a lot more productivity for the student than if we have teachers tell the students, work for 2 hours for the week. Because like I said, some students may do 2 hours, but they won't get a lot done. And then some students, they can do 10 topics in less than an hour. And they'll be happy, so they did get work done in a less amount of time. And that may be something that they would prefer. So we don't want to always rely on usage. A lot of times we maybe want to ask the students to actually complete some type of content. Although, if really you could only do usage, then we understand, but we definitely want to monitor the usage as well. This leads me to my next point, which is to check the completion, right? Are the students are they completing lessons? Are they completing the content? Are they completing, a certain task, a certain percent? Or are they kind of just going through the motions? My experience with a lot of the high school students is that a lot of them may just go through the motions. You tell me to go on there for 2 hours, oh, I'll do it, but I'll figure out a way to kind of just waste the 2 hours and not really do anything. So we want to check for completion. I would even also, because this is something I recommend to the teachers, maybe even check the notebook. Maybe want to take a look at the students' work. I always let the teachers know that we should have the students get in the habit of dating, right, the pages, so that we can always reference it back as well. I like to tell both teachers and parents, the checking the notebook, just because we're policing the students' work, right? It's not like, let me see your notebook, what did you do? But it's more like, hey, I want to see what you're struggling with. Can we maybe take a look at your notebook? So if you put it in that context, I'm curious to see, how you came up with some of the answers. Those are reasons to kind of check the notebook as well. And then finally, I don't want to make the assumption that parents have all the time in the world to do these things. So we know, parents are busy. I mentioned, even my mom working 2 jobs. And again, there may not just be one child, there may be multiple children in the home. Everybody's, doing their own thing. And, there's just a different dynamic at home, and it varies. So if time is a constraint, I also recommend that maybe we plan some conferences, a check-in. You know what, maybe you have the students doing the work, but hey, maybe Fridays as we kind of check in a little bit and see everything that they've done for the week. Again, this is obviously if you have some time constraints. I also recommend this to teachers, and Corey mentioned this as well. We usually recommend that teachers do some type of conferencing with the students, so that the program that you're assigning them at home, whether it's ALEKS or Redbird or something, that's not from McGraw-Hill, it's just not something that is busy work, is what I meaning to say. But as teachers, maybe once a week, we do a conference, we do some type of conferencing with 5 students, just to look at the work that they've been doing at home using this program. I've seen this work really well with many programs and with many teachers. I've seen teachers actually have it be student-led. The teacher just asks the question, hey, go ahead, pull out your reports, and let's see what you've been doing for the week, or what you've been doing, for the last 2 weeks, or since we last have checked in. So it puts the students on their toes, and it also holds them a lot more accountable, because they know that they'll be meeting with their teachers soon. So it's work at home. It's not just homework at home, but they know they have to take it seriously, because at some point they're going to have to explain to the teacher why all they've been doing is spending 3 hours to just get one thing done, with this digital math program, or whatever the case may be. So for teachers, yes, we should plan to do conferencing with the students, doing some check-ins, what I like to call not just follow-ups, but follow-throughs. And then with the parents, if there's definitely some time constraints, we can also do some check-ins, maybe once or multiple times during the week as well. Thank you, Kat, for the message. And then finally, I'm also thinking, in my household, growing up, I don't think my mom could have ever helped me with some of the work because of a language barrier. So now with technology, there is some language supports, some apps, some extensions that can be used even with a browser. So for example, if we're using Chrome, Chrome has a Google Translate browser that as soon as you click that button, everything, even the program, gets translated into the language of your choice. It's pretty easy to set up. And I'm hoping I have enough time to kind of walk you through this. It's pretty easy to set up. And the translations nowadays are actually really good. I only know English and Spanish, but when I looked at the Spanish translation, I'm like, wow, this is actually pretty impressive. Google Translate, even Bing translating, it has come a long way. If this was maybe 10 years ago, I probably would have recommended, but nowadays it actually works extremely well. So I'm going to see if I have enough time to actually show you how to get this, the translation tool onto a program. So as you can see, I have a program here. Math translator, yeah, Melissa, that's true. So I have a math program here. This is ALEKS. Now, ALEKS actually has a built-in translator. But what we can do is go to Chrome, for example, and maybe do a quick little search for, Chrome extensions. And when you go to Chrome extensions, there's actually a Chrome web store. Now, what this does, because I'm using Chrome, I can add extensions. As you can see, I have some extensions here in the upper right-hand corner. So I'm going to click on the Chrome Web Extension Store. And I can just quickly do a search. So I'm going to search the store, and I'm going to do one called Translate. So, there's quite a few of them. The one that I've used, which is the one that I would recommend, would be just a regular Google Translate. This is the one that you probably also have on your phone if you have an Android phone. So we see the Google Translate there. Now, I already have it installed, but basically you just click on it. And then when you click on it, it'll have a button here to install it. And once it installs, it'll appear on your browser. So now what I can do is, as you know, if a parent's maybe having trouble even just reading what the program's saying, what the text is saying, we can click on that extension, click on translate this page, and it'll ask us to, what is the language that we want to translate this. And it's taking a little bit of a while here. Yeah, it's taking a while to load. It's probably because I'm using too many apps now. Plus, I'm running out of time, so I'm a little concerned there. But what will happen then is that automatically there'll be a window here that'll ask us, what language you want to translate to. You can click Spanish, whatever language, and then it'll translate the actual page as well. All right, I think I ran out of time now. But I hope you found some of our tips really valuable. Just to quickly capture or summarize what we described today, let me go back to my slide deck here. So we talked about creating a comfortable learning environment, enforcing a math notebook, or really any type of notebook, using materials around the house, a reward system, sticking to a schedule, allowing students to experience the productive struggle, having students become independent and take ownership of their own learning, letting others help us monitor the student progress, and then using language support apps and extensions as well. So I think I rushed a little bit at the end, but I hope you have something to take back to your parents or to other teachers from our session. I just want to say thank you to everyone. I know there's a survey, there's a link for you to click on. Kat's putting that information out, and I'll go ahead and stop the presentation now.
Thank you very much, Alan and Corey, much appreciated.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you. I think we should get you back for the Family Engagement Summit as well. We have that. But we have a link in the chat for the survey, session survey. We're asking that you please fill it out twice, once for the opening session and once for the first session, because I don't think they got it sent to you at the end of that student panel session. So if you would access that link, give us your feedback on the opening session, and then you'll need to access the link again and give us your feedback on this breakout session as well. Breakout session 1, you were in room 5, and this session was called Personalized Learning at Home Support for Students Using Digital Resources. So thank you.
Thank you guys. Have a great day. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day.